Hello my dear students, I hope you all are doing very well. Today I am here to discuss with you cholinergic blocking agents. Okay. Now, what are these cholinergic blocking agents or anticholinergic agents? These are those substances or those chemical substances or drugs that can act antagonistically at the M cholinereceptor. Okay, cholinergic receptors, I told you there are of two types, muscarinic and nicotinic. So here especially we are talking about the muscarinic receptors. So whichever drug or chemical substance that will act antagonistically at the M cholinereceptor, that will be known as anticholinergic agents. Alright, they are also known as parasympatholytic agents as mentioned here. Alright, please always remember the names. Anticholinergic agents are also known as parasympatholytic agents. Okay, what they will do? They will block the acetylcholine in the nervous system. Okay, how they will antagonize or how they will be anticholinergic or parasympatholytic? By blocking the acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter that is responsible for cholinergic actions. What else they do? They inhibit the parasympathetic nerve impulse by selectively blocking the binding of acetylcholine to its receptors in the nerve cell. Okay, so it is blocking the binding of acetylcholine to its receptor. Alright, these agents, the anticholinergic agents, they will block, alright, selectively block the binding that is going to happen in between acetylcholine and the receptors. Okay, so it will bind the it will block the binding also. What else? In generally what happens is, we are talking about muscarinic antagonists that I told you just previous slide. Alright, it will cause very little blockage of the nicotinic receptors. Alright, mostly these muscarinic receptors will obviously muscarinic antagonist will obviously go and antagonize the muscarinic receptors, while if in case we talk about nicotinic receptors, it is less in comparison to the muscarinic antagonist. But if we talk about quaternary ammonium derivatives, okay, if we talk about quaternary ammonium derivatives of atropine, then they are more potent at muscarinic receptors, and also they will show much better activity while blocking the nicotinic receptors. Alright, classification. See, these are the following types. Anticholinergic agents can be semi-synthetic amino alcohol esters, they can be synthetic amino alcohol esters, they can be new muscarinic antagonist, amino alcohol drugs, amino amide drugs, solonaceous alkaloids, amino ether drugs, and miscellaneous. So these are the different classifications of anticholinergic agents. Okay, make sure you learn this, the different classifications. One is amino ether drug, second solonaceous alkaloids, third semi-synthetic amino alcohol ether, fourth synthetic amino alcohol ether, fifth miscellaneous, next new muscarinic antagonist, amino alcohol drugs, and amino amide drugs. Alright, these are the different classifications of anticholinergic agents. The different examples I have mentioned in here. Okay, for solonaceous alkaloids you have atropine, for semi-synthetic amino alcohol ester you have ipratropium, for synthetic amino alcohol ether you have dicyclomine, and the list goes on. Okay, these are the different examples of the drugs that come under whatever category or whatever classification we have. Okay, next, now we'll go for SAR of cholinolytic agents. Now, first thing that you need to know is about atropine. Atropine is the prototype, means the main drug, the first drug. Alright, the first drug or prototype drug in this category, that is cholinolytic agents, is atropine. Alright, this is the structure of atropine. Alright, now acetylcholine and atropine both are acetic acid esters of amino alcohol. Alright, both are acetic acid esters of amino alcohol. Acetylcholine I have already told you. See here, I have mentioned the structure of acetylcholine only to show you how it is acetic acid ester and related to the structure of atropine. Alright, this thing I have already discussed in previous lecture about acetic acid ester. Right, acetylcholine being a acetic acid ester. Here you can see this part. This is the acetic acid ester part. Why we call it acetic acid ester? Due to this reason. This is the ester part, right? RCOOR is for ester, isn't it? Remember? RC. Please bear with me. O double bond. This will be double bond. Okay. O and R. This is the general formula for esters, right? So this is R, this R we can just say it, the other R is this, and COO, that is why ester. Then acetic acid, CH3COO, right? Acetic acid is CH3COH. So removing the H, we have the other part of the compound acetylcholine. So this is a acetic acid ester. Similarly, if you look here, the structure of atropine. Alright, please don't be fearful with this structure, it's fine. Alright, here. This is the ester part, right? CO. This makes it a ester. Now, where is the acetic acid part? This is the acetic acid part. Okay? CH3 it was, but in this case, in case of atropine, what will happen? Two hydrogens will be removed and one you will get CH2OH and the other you will get a phenyl moiety. Okay, so this is also a acetic acid ester. Now what did it say? When we are talking about cholinolytic agents, we are saying that the first drug or the prototype is atropine. Then acetylcholine and atropine both are acetic acid esters, I just explained. Alright, then the terminal ester carbon in atropine have a bulky substituent, as you see here. Bulky substituent. This one is the bulky one, right? So atropine will have a bulky substituent at the terminal ester carbon in atropine. Okay. Next, the esters of phenylacetic acid was prepared, but it had very little activity. Alright. Phenylacetic acid esters were, see, esters of acetic acid we all know, right? But when we are adding phenyl in there, alright, it had little activity. That means, for example, atropine, one phenyl is here, right? So this is a ester of phenylacetic acid. Ester of phenylacetic acid, right? So when phenylacetic acid was there, it had very little activity. So what we did is, what they did diphenylacetic acid. Okay, that means they tried to add two phenyl groups in the structure. We'll see it later in this lecture. Okay, so the atropine molecule will inactivate the receptors on the cell surface. How? Either mechanically or electrostatically. Alright, if it will inactivate the receptors, the cholinergic receptors, then obviously acetylcholine or the cholinergic agents will not be able to bind to it and we will not get any of the effects, right? So what will atropine do? Atropine will inactivate. It will inactivate the receptors. Alright, once it's inactivate the receptors, how? Either mechanically or electrostatically, then acetylcholine or other cholinergic agents cannot go and bind to the receptors. Okay, hence blocking the activity. Then the acyl group in the antagonist is always larger than the acyl group in the acetylcholine. Alright, what it means here is, the larger the acyl group, more will be the antagonistic activity. Whenever you will see any antagonistic activity compound for cholinergic agents, that means if you see any cholinergic blocking agents, you will find that the acyl group is larger in case of antagonist. Okay. Now, N substitution should be 2 or 3 ethyl groups for optimal potency. Example, dicyclomine. Here you can see the substituent at nitrogen, right? N substitution. That's what it's written. So at nitrogen, the substitution they are talking about should be 2 or 3 ethyl groups. Here you can see there's a ethyl group, right? 1, 2, 1, 2 ethyl. There are 2 ethyl groups here. Okay. So 2 or 3 ethyl groups, if are there, that will give you best potency or optimal potency. For example, dicyclomine. This is the structure for dicyclomine. Okay. Now, what are solonaceous alkaloids and analogues? Now we'll come to this point. These are esters of tropine and tropic acid. Okay. There are two particular compounds, that is tropine and tropic acid. Esters of these compounds make up solonaceous alkaloids. Okay. Now, drugs like, or plants you can say, like Atropa belladonna, Datura stramonium. I think you would have heard of these plants earlier in pharmacognosy. From these plants, we get some alkaloids. For example, hyoscine, atropine, hyoscine. These are the solonaceous alkaloids and analogues. Okay, and if you see the chemical structure of these, it will have tropine and tropic acid. And why they are known as solonaceous? Because they are obtained from the family that is called Solanaceae. That means Atropa belladonna and Datura stramonium, they are in the family of Solanaceae. Okay, that is why they are known as solonaceous alkaloids. Then these alkaloids will inhibit the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, they will inhibit the parasympathetic nervous system and will stimulate the higher centers of nervous system. Alright, they are also a type of cholinergic blocking agent, solonaceous alkaloids and analogues. See, tropine, this is your tropine, and this is tropic acid. Alright, now atropine is a racemic mixture. Its levoisomer is hyoscine. You should know the levoisomer of atropine is hyoscine. Hyoscine. The anticholinergic effect, how does it come? It comes because there is an intact ester of atropine and tropic acid, and also there is a free hydroxyl group. These are the two reasons why you are getting anticholinergic activity in solonaceous alkaloids, because when you see the structure you will find it is a presence of intact ester of tropine and tropic acid, and also there is a free hydroxyl group in their structure, due to which what happens is they give the cholinergic effect. Now they have antispasmodic actions on smooth muscles, and also they will decrease the gastric and intestinal motility. Alright, how they give the anticholinergic effect? They give the anticholinergic effect because they have a free hydroxyl group and they have an intact ester of tropine and tropic acid. Alright, what actions they have? They have antispasmodic actions, okay, on the smooth muscles, and they also decrease the gastric and intestinal motility. Clear? Now, in this case, solonaceous alkaloids, okay, we have to study one synthesis, that is ipratropium. Now, please do not get confused again with the structures. Just try to be friendly with them. Alright, this is your tropic acid. Okay, here with you can see COOH. This is your tropic acid. This is your tropine. Okay, remember here tropine and tropic acid, this is what it is. Okay, once again you see. Alright, here you can see tropine and tropic acid. These two will react in the presence of hydrochloric acid and you will get the compound. This is your atropine. Okay, now here you can see the difference. It's clear here. This is C double bond O and this has been removed, right? Water has been removed, then CHO and C double bond O, and the remaining full here also and here also remains the same, right? So minus H2O happens here and you get this compound. Okay, now in the presence of isopropyl bromide that you can see in here, what you get here is this bond over here. This is CH3, right? So what will happen is two hydrogens will leave here and what CH3 will come. The CH3 whole twice is here, right? So this complete CH3 whole twice will come and attach to this carbon. Okay, this carbon. Two hydrogens will be removed from here. Only one will be left. This is here CH, and when two hydrogens are removed, this carbon got two free valencies. So the two free valencies will be satisfied with two methyl groups, CH3 whole twice. That means two methyl groups, right? So here it remains as such, and this bromine will form a salt here. This gives you ipratropium bromide. Alright, I hope it's clear enough. This is your tropine, this is your tropic acid. The two react together, H2O is removed, you get atropine. Alright, then this atropine, what happens next step? In the presence of isopropyl bromide, what will happen? Two hydrogens will be removed from here, one will remain, so it becomes CH, and the two valencies that have been free will be satisfied with two methyl groups, two CH3 groups, so CH3 whole twice. Okay, this is the synthesis of ipratropium bromide. Next we come to SAR of synthetic cholinergic blocking agents. Okay, that we had studied was cholinolytic. Now we have come to synthetic cholinergic blocking agents. Okay, now solaneous alkaloids, why we do not want them, or what was the problem? The problem was it had some side effects and also lacked selectivity. Due to this reason we came up with synthetic cholinergic agents. Alright, so solaneous alkaloids had side effects and also they lacked selectivity, due to which we shifted to synthetic cholinergic blocking agents. Alright, now various modifications have been made in the structure of atropine to obtain competitive antagonists to acetylcholine. This is your general structure for synthetic cholinergic blocking agents. What does this consist of? It consists of a tertiary amine group, an ethyl chain, right? This is your ester part. Then next is pivotal carbon that bears the bulky group. Okay, pivotal means main carbon, you can say. Okay, so pivotal carbon that bears the bulky group. Okay, so this is a general structure for synthetic cholinergic blocking agents. Now what are the SAR points? The tertiary amino group can be protonated to form cationic head. Alright, what will happen if there is a cationic head in it? What is there is the muscarinic receptor that is present in the body that has an anionic center. Okay, so that will help in the interaction. Alright, so if there is a cationic head, it will go and interact with the anionic center of the muscarinic receptor. So N-ethyl substitution is optimal for activity. That means at nitrogen, if there is a ethyl substituent, that will give you good activity, but if there is a propyl or butyl, it will decrease the potency of your compound. Okay, then the pivotal carbon must have at least one aromatic group. Why that aromatic group is required? It is required for van der Waals interactions. Okay, the aromatic group is required for the van der Waals interactions within the receptors, and after that one aromatic group, what is the next that it should have? It should have a cycloaliphatic group. Okay, one cycloaliphatic group that will help in hydrophobic bonding. I told you, if you remember, these aliphatic groups are hydrophobic in nature, right? So they will help in hydrophobic bonding with the receptors, and the aromatic groups will help in van der Waals interactions with the receptors. Okay, you should know the 2 points. Then if two phenyl groups are present, it will be more potent in comparison to one phenyl and one cyclohexyl group. Okay, what they are telling in here is, with this carbon, at this carbon, if you have both the phenyl groups, right, both phenyl rings are there, then in that case what will happen? It will be more potent. For example, clydenium bromide. Here you can see this is your pivotal carbon, right? This one over here. Okay, this is the pivotal carbon, and these are the two phenyl groups. So this has more activity, or this is more potent in comparison to any other compound, any other antagonist which is having just one phenyl group and one cyclohexyl group. Okay, now if we increase the chain length of the carbon, then the activity will decrease. This we have discussed in earlier also. If that ethylene is there, right, sorry, ethyl bridge is there for two carbon, if that number is increased, the activity will decrease. Okay, and if you are branching at the carbon beta to the nitrogen atom, it will decrease the activity. Okay, You need to make sure that there is no branching also. If there will be branching, it will decrease the activity. Then the main chain of the carbon atom may include oxygen, sulfur, nitrogen, etc., which will help to increase the potency of the compound. Okay, if in that structure, that means over here in this structure, for example, if you have nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, they will help to increase the potency of the compound. Then on the basis of all these modifications that we have been discussing, these synthetic cholinergic blocking agents can be of following types. They can be classified as amino alcohol esters, for example dicyclomine. They can be amino alkyl ethers, that can be orphenadrine. Then amino amides, for example tropicamide, and amino alcohol, for example benzhexol. Okay, these are the different examples if you classify the synthetic cholinergic blocking agents. Dicyclomine. Now we'll go for synthesis of dicyclomine. Here you can see, had I been in class I would have asked you directly name the compound, but because I cannot, so let me only name the compound for you. This is a cyclohexane, right? So this will be cyclohexane, and this is again a cyclohexane, and this is bromine, so this will be 1-bromo-cyclohexane. So one cyclohexane and one bromocyclohexane will react in the presence of NaNH2. What you will get here is this bromine will be removed, Br ion, and this carbon got free valency, right? Once this carbon has a free valency, this carbon will go and form a bond with this carbon. Okay, here now you might be thinking, what is being removed from here? Obviously hydrogen, right? Minus HBr will be here. Okay, that carbon that we are talking about, it is binded here. This carbon, if you think 1, 2, 3, that means the fourth valency is satisfied with a hydrogen, right? So that hydrogen will be removed, this bromine will be removed, so it will be minus HBr. Okay, and these two rings will attach to each other. Then what will happen in the next step? NN diethyl chloride, as you can see in here, this will then come into action, and one simple reaction will come here. What will happen is, this is C triple bond N, right? Cyanide C triple bond N, all the three bonds will be removed. Alright, so it gets 3 free valencies. This carbon will get 3 free valencies, out of which 2 it will satisfy with an oxygen, and 1 it will satisfy with the oxygen, and this oxygen will then be attached to this compound from here. Okay, CH2CH2N, C2H5, C2H5. Similarly, CH2CH2N, C2H5, C2H5. Okay, the ester moiety will come in here. Okay, C double bond O, single bond O, and the remaining compound will attach, and these two rings will be here. This is your dicyclomine. Okay, this is the synthesis of dicyclomine. Once again, one cyclohexane and one bromocyclohexane will react together. It will be minus HBr, hydrogen from this carbon and bromine from here, and the two rings will get attached. This carbon and this carbon will attach. So over here, this is the cyanide, this ring, this is one cyclohexane is here at this carbon that you are talking about, this one. Okay, this will form a bond with this ring, and then after that it will react with another compound, that is NN diethyl chloride. Okay, and the ester will come in here, and the remaining, this full part will be attached to the moiety, and you get dicyclomine. Okay, now next is synthesis of procyclidine. In procyclidine, 3,1-pyrrolidinil propiophenol. Okay, this compound, this will come, and what will happen in the presence of Grignard reagent? It will react. So what is going to happen is a simple reaction. In this you can see, this complete part is as such. This one bond is going to break. Okay, C double bond, one bond will break, one will remain as such. With this oxygen, hydrogen will come next to it. Okay, and for this carbon, what will happen? This ring with the Grignard reagent, this will come and attach in here. Okay, so this compound reacts with the Grignard reagent, that is cyclohexane magnesium bromide. Alright, in the presence of hydrochloric acid to give you procyclidine hydrochloride. Clear? Simple reaction. The 3,1-pyrrolidine propiophenol will react with cyclohexane magnesium bromide in the presence of hydrochloric acid. What will happen? C double bond O is here. One bond is going to break, and with this oxygen, hydrogen will be attached, and with this carbon, this ring will be attached, and you get procyclidine hydrochloride. Okay, clear? So that is all for cholinergic blocking agents. I hope you have understood it well. In case you have any doubts, please reach out to me. Thank you very much, class.